A secretive marsh bird, more likely to be heard than seen, the black rail produces its distinctive call. Currently listed as threatened, their populations are declining due to human-induced factors such as sea level rise. They inhabit the highest elevation areas of salt marshes, which are not actually what you think of as high elevations. Instead, they are at sea level elevation with no deeper than 1.2 inches of water. These areas are particularly susceptible to changes in sea level, as they can quickly become inundated and unsuitable for the black rail. Recent modeling data predicts a global sea level rise of 1 meter by the year 2100. In the Gulf Coast region, relative sea level rise is amplified due to the withdrawal of groundwater, especially along the western part of the Gulf Coast region. The Gulf Coast sea level rise prediction is 0.2 to 1 meter higher than along other coastal areas. Human action is to blame. Oil and gas infrastructure, recreational facilities, homes, levees, and changes to the entire watershed along the rivers and streams that empty into the Gulf have forced this change. These actions prevent normal flooding of marshland, affect its natural drainage abilities, and reduce its mineral uptake and ability to grow vertically. Hundreds of square kilometers of marsh habitat have been lost over time to these activities. Because sea level rise responds slowly to changes in greenhouse gas emissions, changes that are already occurring cannot be stopped immediately. Even under the best emissions scenarios, the current rate of sea level rise would continue for centuries or millennia. It is therefore critical that geospatial models be created on a local scale to predict the changes that will take place in coastal regions. This project was produced in partnership with the Gulf Coast Joint Venture, an organization near to my home and close to my heart. They monitor and manage habitat for several coastal species, including the black rail and the iconic whooping crane. I had the pleasure of visiting the coast to count whooping cranes at the same time we were choosing capstone topics, so this one came natural to me. When I contacted the joint venture, they were eager to have some models created to compare sea level rise to black rail habitat, which will allow them to prepare for on-the-ground management efforts to prevent destruction of habitat for the black rail and other species. As a bird lover, this is something that means a lot to me, and I'm glad to have been able to produce something that will be put to real-world use to help coastal birds. The study area includes the Gulf Coast Joint Venture Initiative area, including coastal regions of Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Datasets were collected from NOAA depicting sea level rise scenarios, and eBird provided abundance data and range data for the black rail. An overlay analysis was performed in ArcGIS Pro to compare the varying scenarios to the marsh habitat of the black rail. There are approximately 5,000 square meters of marsh habitat present within the black rail's known range. The overlay analysis revealed all locations within the study area impacted at each sea level rise scenario. All scenarios resulted in inward movement of coastline, with variations occurring in estuaries based on sea level. Coastal habitat loss ranges from approximately 10,600 to 14,900 square kilometers. Seen here is a map that depicts all scenarios. Individual scenarios can be seen here. These are important to show details predicting exactly where the water will likely travel. This allows the shallowest areas of marsh to be identified, helping the joint venture to set priorities to protect these areas. The low scenario of 0.5 meters results in a total loss of all 5,000 square kilometers of marsh habitat within the black rail's range. There is a 90% probability of worldwide sea level rise of 0.5 to 1.2 meters by 2100. The Texas Gulf Coast has one of the fastest sea level rise rates in the world due to groundwater withdrawal and hydrocarbon production. Even at the lowest scenario, there could be devastating consequences for the black rail. However, it isn't all doom and gloom for the black rail. Marsh habitat is resilient when it comes to changes in sea level, and inundation of one area does not necessarily mean a total annihilation of habitat. One study found that despite the loss of 43 square kilometers of marsh habitat, 82 square kilometers of forest converted to new marsh habitat. An additional 66 square kilometers converted from forest to marsh transitional habitat, meaning that new marsh habitat can be created despite a catastrophic loss. Migration of both wildlife and humans can also play a factor in how sea level rise scenarios affect the black rail. As a flighted species, the black rail could potentially move to less inundated habitat, possibly choosing to settle in previously uninhabited areas. In addition, as the stressors of sea level rise begin to affect industry and tourism, use of coastal areas might decrease. This could remove one of the variables associated with predicted sea level rise scenarios, reducing the impact in some measurable way. As you have seen, sea level rise will have a profound impact on black rail habitat along the Gulf Coast. The areas most at risk have been identified in the results of this study, allowing habitat management efforts to be planned to avoid loss of black rail populations. With quick and effective actions taking place to restore, repair, or rebuild habitat, the black rail can continue to call the Gulf Coast home.